So Ellen, tell me about where you get your inspiration. You talk about music and lyrics that inspire you. Like, what inspires you?
That is, it's an amazing question. I find that when I'm stuck and I need inspiration for the moment, um, I tend to go to.
Wait, I'm so sorry.
It's okay. I think someone switched. Thanks. Okay, that's a really interesting concept.
Okay, all right, there you go.
Can I ask the question again?
Okay.
So Ellen, tell me where does your inspiration come from?
On a very basic level, like when I'm really stuck and I need something, one of my greatest inspirations is New York. It's other people. So when I'm in New York, just going out in the street, I can get a new idea, I can get unstuck, walking around the energy of the city, I will see, smell, experience that will delight me and move me past it. In the modern age, Twitter and Facebook, it's just a place to get out into the great cosmic collective of people's ideas and thoughts and feelings, and that tends to get me unstuck. But there's nothing more intimidating or more wonderful than a great book in any form, just really great writing. To see that other people have strung words together that have meant something to them just lets me know that I will live to write another day. And then, of course, there's nothing like family. I think the one thing that I can always count on, whether it's the family that I've made or the family that I've made along the way, is a meal with them. It's like really good food that we've made together and that we share together. It's the one thing I know will always set me right.
Do you have a daily mantra? Anything that you live by day to day?
We've started sort of doing that a little bit with our family, and I think we're going to refine it. So it's a new practice that I'm taking on. It's such an exciting thing that you asked about, and we're keeping it to 2 or 3 words that I think will really set the sort of the character, mindset for the day. Things like be generous, or take chances, or take your time. Things that we've got 9-year-old and a 6-year-old. Things that everybody sort of needs to be reminded of that help you be open and calm and yourself and resilient in a world that's just throwing snowballs at you every minute of every day. So the mantra thing, I think, is going to work for us. It's fun.
Tell me, how do you do that? Do you set it up in the morning, or even for business people? I mean, it's a great practice to get into, but how are you doing that at home?
I used to leave Post-its, and that's always fun. In my office, I have an office at home. We have an actual wall that we painted with whiteboard paint. So half of it is mine and half of it is Rachel's. Rachel is my 9-year-old and she spends a lot of time in there. But I'm actually thinking of painting the wall next to the exit into the garage, that blackboard paint. So any one of us now that all of us can write in the house, all of us can set the mood for the day based on what we've talked about either the night before or that morning. Just real short, because 180 characters is too long, right? Just a couple of words that could really say, who are the people we want to be today, no matter what happens. And I think it's going to work.
I love that. That is something we can all do. That's a really, really good idea. Tell me, kind of switching gears a little bit to your role in the media. I think we've talked about this a little bit, but what do you see the media's role? What is the media doing well, and what should it be doing better in terms of really reaching and interacting with customers today?
I think it's tough because the media is in a tough place, and slow to embrace new technologies, ad supported, which adds a whole layer of complexity when it comes to taking risks. But my big advice to myself and to everybody, my brothers and sisters in all media, is taking more risks to actually present to their audience things that they really need to know, not just what they think they'll buy. And that is everybody's leadership dilemma, no matter what industry that you're in. And you have to balance that with a certain commercial approach and a marketing approach because we're all in business. But that kind of leadership takes a real love and regard for your customers. Media in general tends not to think of people as customers. And we occasionally, and I mean this not my personal brand, but in general, the history of media is that we've treated our customers with a certain degree of contempt. It's time to not just listen to them and give them what they specifically asked for, but listen to the condition that they're in and the context that they're in based on what you're reporting to them and give them what they need. And that, I don't know that I know how to do that, but I know that I am mostly willing to be brave enough to give it a shot.
That's really interesting. I mean, what do you see as a process to get that done? You talked about how you don't often get feedback as a reporter. I mean, are there new things you're thinking about to try and get that kind of feedback?
The traditional things, online comments, stoking a commentary community, Twitter, that's a very modern way of doing it, but I'm not sure it gets me where I want to go. It's almost like the phenomenon of the self-reported survey. People behave the way they behave. It doesn't mean that that's actually what they believe or what they need. When it comes to customer feedback, I am an analog girl, which makes me a tired roller bag warrior. I just feel like getting out there and talking to people outside of the context of what it is that you're doing is the only way that you're really going to get a sense of who they are and what they need. Talking to readers, getting them off script, giving them a chance to get to know me or invite me in because they already know me in other platforms like Twitter, which I consider to be the ultimate platform for friendliness. That's really how I use it. It's the best way that I know for me to gather insights and feelings, bring them back to my editors and say, this is how we are perceived, this is where we need to go, this is what business people need today. And I think for Fast Company, if I could brag on this a little bit, has a unique role in business people's lives because we've become a resource for them to actually feel more creative and get better at what they want to do, whether they're individual contributors or a CEO.
Tell me a little bit about long-form journalism. We were just talking about that and the role of long-form, especially today when it's becoming a little bit of a dinosaur, shall we say, or there isn't enough room for the long-form pieces, but tell me your approach to that.
It's funny to have worked this hard to finally, arrive at the Jurassic period of the media career as a busy long-form journalist. And I'm not 100% sure what percentage of long-form will continue to exist in a modern world. But I do think it's essential because it's the only way you can get people off script long enough to develop a big insight into what they're actually doing, thinking, what they're making actually means in the bigger world. That kind of context takes time. Those kinds of insights come from relationship with people, with companies, with ideas, and that takes time to unfold. Just even in my remarks today at Interplay, or yesterday at Interplay, it occurred to me that what I was really talking about was 3 years of observations with people and literally 500 hours of reporting, minimum, to give a 10-minute presentation of what I think the new technology means. Without those kinds of insights, and conversely, without the beat reporters, who are going to school board meetings, who are monitoring police reports, the micro reporters who are gathering tremendous in-depth knowledge about a very specific thing that we all need. I think that we're not going to be actually talking about anything interesting anymore. So the fight's on, and whether it's on paper or in tablet form, whether it comes in serialized form, whether one of the geniuses in the Level family invents a way so I can beam it right into somebody's head, I'm open to it. But that conversation needs to continue.
Tell me about journalism in general. Would you encourage a college graduate now to be, or anybody to go into journalism?
I'm not a traditional journalist. I didn't go to journalism school. I was, believe it or not, an art dealer and museum curator for 10 years when I decided that I wanted to be a writer. And I took it on with such a sense of unlimited imagination, not playing hard and loose with the facts, but what that could actually be for me. So I don't really consider myself a journalist in a traditional sense, which has been both wonderful and difficult. But I'll tell anybody who wants to be a storyteller, anybody who wants to have a relationship with the world where they interpret it for other people, regardless of what your actual passion or specialty is, you absolutely should consider yourself a journalist. But just understand there's more than one way to get there.
Well said. Tell me in terms of storytelling, what are some of the stories that you would love to tell? I know you can't divulge who you might be working on now, but just some of the people that you follow that you think are really fascinating.
It's so fun. You're catching me when I'm just sliding off a really difficult deadline. So my answer right now is there's not a single story in the world worth telling, nothing I want to think about or nothing I want to read. And that is the emotional roller coaster of being a writer and editor in media. But that's actually not true. I think all the time about new ways that people are attacking wrenching problems that we all have. And I think probably people have always thought this, so I'm going to think about this in the same way that people have always thought, but never before in human history have we been so close to being able to solve some extraordinarily wrenching problems that have always existed. At the same time, we are so close to destroying ourselves in some really profound, easily scalable ways, and that tension fascinates me. Of course, I'd like to be on the side of the solution, but the people who want to chronicle the destruction are just as valuable in the conversation. I'd like to believe that the way that we're connected now through technology and how cheap and easy it is for a very talented person wherever they are to invent something means that innovation has finally been democratized, small d democratized. I would like to believe that. And I would like to believe that anybody, no matter what their circumstances are, or what they look like, or who they're related to, and they don't need to play golf with the CEO or a venture capitalist, has an access to a marketplace to make the kind of impact that they want to in the world. So I guess part of my commitment as a writer is to keep looking for that company, that person, that idea that deserves the platform that we can offer them.
Beautiful. Tell me about one last question. Just we've talked a lot about water.org and just some of your passion around that, but just from a big picture perspective, talk about doing business with purpose and what does that mean to you?
When people talk about things like doing business with purpose, performance with purpose, meaning, what does all that mean? It has evolved for many companies as a strategy, as a talking point in an annual report, to something that seems to be increasingly baked into the DNA of a company. If you can bake DNA, I think I'm mixing metaphors here. And I have to sometimes use some version of spidey senses to figure out whether I believe that this is true or not true, whether it's an attempt to do something that people think is good, or that's really something that is true for an individual or a leader. And the benchmark for that is when something goes wrong, when there is a drop-off in the economy, or there is a problem with the product and resources are pulled away and the effort is abandoned. That is a sign to me that the people who have put it into place have not put it into place in the kind of way that they were willing to live and die around it. Because the truth is, all leaders know this, although they will not say it in any kind of shareholder or analyst meeting, is that there's absolutely no reason for what I do to exist. There's no reason for the Intels, the Ciscos, the UPS, like whatever the company is, doesn't matter what it is, there's no reason for it to exist. We are subject to the vagaries of the marketplace and to the whims of the marketplace gods and all of that kind of stuff. But the truth is, if we are willing to stand by what we believe and who we are in the world, and that business can be a platform for something that means something to us that we define, we can find a way. And those companies always get my attention. And that's a very long way to say my gut can tell me, but there are real things that I can look for where someone is just trying on a new coat or they really are living that life.
Awesome.